Okay, hello everyone. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Grisel Rodriguez Morales, Rush Generations Program Director. It is our pleasure to welcome you to the 2026 Schaalman Thought Leader Lecture. During the month of May, we recognize both Older Americans Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. And this has become one of our most anticipated events, not only for our Rush colleagues, but also to the public. Today's event is brought to you by the Rush Center for Excellence in Aging Schaalman Senior Voices program, in close collaboration also with E4 Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Disparities in Aging and Rush Generations. And with that in mind, I'd like to thank these partners and their respective teams for their thoughtful planning and dedication in making today's event possible. Next slide, please. Schaalman Senior Voices is a collection of programs, inspiring films, and educational opportunities designed to strengthen the well-being of older adults and their community. Could we move to one more slide? The next slide, please.
I'm sorry, I had to reshare.
That's okay.
That's how it goes, right?
Technology fun.
Yes,
The program honors the guidance and legacy of Rabbi Herman E. Schaalman and his commitment to making meaningful questions, building connections across communities, and advancing the greater good. Thank you for that. Today's program and the broader Schaalman Senior Voices initiative at Rush wouldn't be possible without the vision and generosity of one exceptional individual, Mr. Mark Fenton. Through his leadership and philanthropic support, Mark has helped create a program that carries forward the legacy of Rabbi Schaalman, bringing people together, crossing boundaries, and fostering meaningful dialogue like we are doing today. So we thank Mr. Fenton from the bottom of our hearts. Let me give you then now some logistics, if we can move one more. Today's event is being live streamed through Rush Generations YouTube channel and via Zoom through the E4 Center. So we encourage you all to stay engaged and participate in the conversation by submitting questions through the chat on either platform. We will be monitoring the questions throughout the program. And the webinar, as you probably saw, will be recorded. The recording and the slides will be sent to all of the participants tomorrow. Next slide, please. Through this webinar, Dr. Epps will describe how faith-lived experience and community-engaged research have shaped culturally grounded approaches to supporting African American families impacted by dementia. Will also be able to identify at least 3 ways that faith communities can reduce dementia-related stigma and strengthen resilience through compassion, education, and trusted relationships. And finally, be able to apply practical evidence-informed strategies to foster a sustainable culture of care within congregations and communities that supports individuals living with dementia and their caregivers. Next slide, please. The continuing education. We're also pleased to offer continuing education credits for today's session, 1.5 hours for most disciplines to be exact. After this lecture, those who pre-register will receive an email to claim the CEUs, and you'll have up to 10 days to complete the evaluation, which is required to get those continuing education credits. Now, you will need to be logged into Zoom in order to be eligible for the continuing education credits. So if you're not in Zoom, we ask that you please click the link that we have just put in the YouTube channel chat so that you can join via Zoom. We have a few more announcements to make, so go ahead and do that. You're going to be there in a minute or so. All right. Let's see. Next is a mandatory disclaimer. It's gonna take me a while to read all of this. No, I'm
Don't read
kidding.
it all.
Don't worry.
Please.
I'm not going to read it. So let's move on. And I'll hand it off to Eddie.
Hello, all. I'm Erin Emery Tiburcio. I am the co-director of the E4 Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Disparities within the Rush Center for Excellence in Aging. And as a co-sponsor of this event, we are very excited to offer all kinds of fantastic resources that you see here on the chat. We'll be dropping these resources into the chat as well. Our fantastic online 16-hour certificate program, Foundational Competencies in Older Adult Mental Health, which you can access via our Learning Hub. Those who do not need continuing education, it's completely free. And those of you who may be professors in colleges would welcome you to use any of those online lessons as part of your curriculum. We also have all kinds of fantastic resources in terms of toolkits and tailored resources. So please check out our resources that Franco is driving into the chat. And on the next slide, we also are very excited that we have a fantastic ethics panel coming up. Interprofessional ethics in older adult mental health and behavioral health, psychology, psychiatry, social work, and counseling perspectives. We have 4 top leaders in each of these fields having a really cool conversation, very case-based, so it will be engaging and not dry as ethics sometimes is. But please come and join us for these fantastic speakers, 2 parts, 3 hours, which meets the criteria for most of us for our CE licensure. So come on over and join us for this really exciting event. And we've got the link for that in the chat, so you can go ahead and register. And moving right into the main attraction for today. Oh, wait, I've got one more. Tomorrow, if you have not already registered for Older Adult Mental Health Awareness Day, the National Council on Aging is sponsoring this event along with many others. Please do come and join us. E4 is providing free continuing education all day. There will be 4.5 hours of free continuing education and some really exciting topics. So please come and join us. You can join us for any or all. So if you click on the link in the chat to register, you can see all of the specific topics that will be involved in that event. Come on over and join us. It's a really fantastic event each year. Now I think we're getting on to our main event. Nope, we've got a couple of more. I'll hand back over to Griselle to say just a little bit about a couple of Rush-based events.
One more about another signature event that we offer during Older Americans Month is our Stepping into Summer Health Fair, which is going to happen 1 week from tomorrow at the newly opened Sankofa Village Wellness Center in West Garfield Park here in Chicago. If you're interested in more information about this, please feel free to reach out. We have a helpline, 1-800-757-0202, or go to our webpage or Facebook page in which we have more details about it. Okay, and to get things started, we have a question for all of you. Those of you joining us via Zoom, you'll see it pop up on your screen. And those of you in YouTube, feel free to answer the question and write your answer in the chat. Let's see, how is this going? Great participation. I'm seeing the numbers pop up. How confident are you in your ability to develop and implement dementia-informed programs in partnership with faith communities? Right. I think we have about 20 more people that can answer the question, right? Considering the numbers that we're seeing. All right, good. But from what we are seeing so far, the majority of the people are somewhat confident or not very confident. Between 39% to 45% are either feeling somewhat confident or not very confident. So excellent, because now we hope that then after this event, your confidence may change. Okay, now without further ado, next slide, please, because I would like to start introducing our thought leader I'm very honored to introduce our speaker today. We are honored to welcome Dr. Fayron Epps, a true leader and change maker in the field of aging. Dr. Fayron Epps is a best-selling author, nurse, and researcher specializing in dementia care, family caregiving, and health disparities. She's a professor and the Karen and Ronald Herman Distinguished Chair in Caregiver Research at the University of Texas Health Science Center, San Antonio School of Nursing, and her work is centered around promoting awareness, education, and support for families, affected by dementia, particularly within African American communities. Dr. Epps is known for her community-engaged research and her efforts to partner with faith communities to improve dementia care and resources. Her research includes exploring how faith-based organizations can serve as a support system for families and caregivers and developing culturally relevant resources to address health disparities in dementia care. Her work bridges the gap between research and real-world application by ensuring that her findings directly benefit the population she serves. She has received various accolades and funding for her innovative work in health equity, dementia care, and community engagement, and today she will guide us in exploring how we can each contribute to advancing dementia care and supporting families in meaningful, culturally responsive ways. Dr. Epps will challenge us to rethink how community partnerships, especially with faith-based organizations, can help address disparity and translate research into real-world impact. So please join me in giving a warm, enthusiastic welcome to Dr. Fayron Epps.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that welcome and that introduction. Thank you all for who made time out your day to join for this lecture. I'm super excited to be able to share some of my research that I've been doing, the future where I would like it to go, and hopefully invite you all to be part of that movement. And so we'll get started. And y'all bear with me, I'm managing slides and and in speaking. So the title of our talk this afternoon would be Finding Grace and Support on the Dementia Caregiving Journey. So this journey is rooted in faith, service, and science. And the book that I wrote, it's really, hold up. I'm sorry, y'all. It looks like we got the wrong one with the timer. Would someone else like to share? I'm not sure what happened.
I can go ahead and share. Hang on
Okay.
just a second.
Yes, apologies for that. I don't know why all of a sudden it flipped to the previous version.
Yes, I am not sure what happened. But as we're getting that slide up again, we apologize. I know we practiced and just things wouldn't come up. But I wanted to really start off and just talk about my journey and how the work that I've done, Griselle gave the introduction. I've been doing the work in space with dementia, supporting family caregivers for a little bit over 10 years, but I've been a nurse for over 25 years. But really honing in and supporting family caregivers and those with dementia for about the last 10 to 11 years. Thank you so much.
Just about there. Just going to share now.
Okay.
Okay, where'd it go? out. There we go. Everyone see okay?
Yes, just need to be to the right slide.
Yep, to the right slide.
Thank you so much.
And
We
as
are
mentioned,
here. Thank you.
great. Are we there? Okay, perfect. And as mentioned, I'm a nurse researcher, author, and community advocate. I was doing it again.
No, we turned it off. What's happening?
But a lot of my work is rooted in my faith. And so as part of my bio, what's not mentioned is that I am a woman of faith. And I want to make sure that I share that because that actually has influenced my professional work, my research. It has influenced my career. And that is the lens that I approach all of my work that I do with community and through my research. And a lot of this, when people see me, they see me as a researcher, but I want you all to know that I'm a researcher that has sat down at kitchen tables, that have been right there with families, been in the churches with them, and I have been able to witness how family caregivers, how they are the heroes, these families, and they are really supporting each other through love. And a lot of my work, when I go out in the community, I say I am here because I love you all. I love the community, and that's what it is actually about. So as we go into the next slide, I want to talk more about my journey. Where did it start? Where did it all begin? Where does that personal story meets with professional purpose? And before I go into that, we're going to show a video right quick. If the slides would just act right for us.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's happening. The timing is off, but I'm going to try one more time.
Okay, that's great.
Unless
So
Aaron would prefer.
that's fine. You can, as you're working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and
Okay.
keep talking.
Thank you so much.
As the video that we're about to play, I want to share, this was actually, we went to Ghana earlier this year, and I just want to share with you all where my work is currently right now, and then I want to back it up. So in this video, you actually will hear from our partners in Ghana.
I think we're going to have Franco try. Franco, go ahead and try to share it on your end. So very sorry once again. This did work a few minutes ago without advancing on its own.
It just worked a few minutes ago.
As Aaron says, gremlins. There's gremlins in our computers. So sorry. Thank you for everyone's patience.
And
All
this
right.
is with a few tech practices before this event. So
It's all love. It's all love, right? Love, grace, and patience. So here we go.
There's this story that came up that was reported. An old lady traveled from a village to her son in Tema, that is in the city of Accra. This old lady did not know that the son relocated to another place. Because of her condition, she forgot about where she was, and then she was going up and down the town, and in the roads, walking the roads up and down. And then there were these guys in the area who noticed this woman around. So they approached her, "Oh, why are you walking around all this trial?" And then she was not able to give any relevant, answer. And she was, "I'm coming to see my son." And until they forced her to confess that she's a witch. And then they painted her to death around 5 p.m. on that day. It was so cruel and wicked that the newspaper of the country, Ghana's newspaper, carried this story, and it went open to the public. The son said, "Oh, my mom is not a witch. However, she had signs, forgetfulness of place, person, and names and all that. So that is what she was having to battle with, but not the witch." But what happened, because this group of people, because of their perception, they bent this lady to death. And this is so sad. We read the story, and it was clear that this lady was having this condition of dementia and Alzheimer's.
What a friend we have in Jesus.
Yeah, there's so many times when we said we couldn't do it, but when we heard of the elder being burned to death just because they're misunderstood, we had to come. We have the knowledge, and we've got to transfer it for the transformation. We're ready.
We at it again.
Again, yes.
One of the community partners, which is Alzheimer's Ghana, they actually shared that they needed more education on what Alzheimer's disease is. They were sharing with us how individuals, elders in their community, in the village, was being treated because no one actually knew what it was. And the health system wasn't really built up to truly address that. Hi, I'm Dr. Fayron Epps. I'm the founder of the ALTER program. I'm also professor of nursing at UT Health San Antonio and the endowed chair for caregiving research. Also partnering University of Tennessee, Knoxville with Dr. Tiffany Washington.
ALTER was already a brand in the United States. And so I said, hey, I know someone in the US who actually has a model for integrating dementia education into the church. Here's a model that works, and here's a country in need. Let's bring those two things together and let's see what happens.
I developed these kind of keeping in mind what I learned last time whenever I came here to help facilitate the conversation about dementia with you.
It really is an exchange of ideas and of culture. And it's not really us just coming to talk about dementia education, but I have to say it's for us to learn from our roots, from our ancestry. And so since we've been here, we've done a lot of learning, a lot of education.
It's a great opportunity to be able to learn a new culture and be able to learn how to pivot our current model to fit different cultures. And I hope that our experience here in Ghana will be helpful for us as we maybe grow into Nigeria, grow into Liberia. No telling what's getting ready to happen with this model.
There are very few health professionals that are qualified in this area to offer training or to offer management support and care services. So ALTER Group coming to Ghana has come to solve that problem greatly.
I took away a lot of things from today's program that I'm hoping to add to the curriculum for the healthcare workers. So yeah, I learned a lot from it. Dr. David Brodeman, I'm a neurologist at the Kolubu Teaching Hospital in Accra, Ghana. I'm also the head of the stroke unit. Through the interactions today, I've found a very, very good way to educate people on the holistic management, not just the spiritual aspects, but also the clinical, and how to tie those two together.
The community network that ALTER brings helps to connect, serve deeply, and to support. I'm Jacqueline Thornton with Sage Navigator, the president and CEO. And Sage Navigator, we have these 5 pillars, and ALTER's work is centered around our Sage Solutions, our Sage Talks, which is why we're here.
The work does not stop here, but it is an important place to start. My name is Mia Chester. I am the co-founder of Alter. Alter is committed to spreading dementia awareness. If you'd like to support our work, please visit us at alterdementia.com. Again, alterdementia.com.
Thank you for sharing that video. And I just wanted you all to get the meat of, during they was reading the bio and the work that we have started doing, that it has also been not just within the US, but we are currently internationally. And so if we can back, so right here, when we go back, and this happened in January, but where did it all start from as we think about my journey, right? And before I became a researcher, y'all, I became a witness. Growing up in the faith communities where I saw elders, they were quietly struggling, right? No one had the words for what they were facing. I've seen this in many churches that I visited, the churches that I was a parishioner at as well. I also watched families carry the weight of caregiving and carry that in silence out of love. It was their filial obligation for them to do this, but many of them thought they were doing this alone. No one else knew how to support them. And so, we've heard that term, suffering in silence. So I actually saw that while I was out in the community. And I see this as more than just not my duty as a nurse or a nurse researcher, but I was actually answering a call. And so I'll take a few minutes to share with you all, because many people like, well, how did you start in this space? And number one, I started focusing on family caregiving because of my family. It was all about taking care of our elders in our family. And what I've seen is on my paternal side, it was stressful. On my maternal side, it was a joy to be able to care for anyone that needed to be supported. And so that was my focus on family caregiving. And then when I got really into dementia was when I was applying for my postdoc in 2013, 2012. Wow, it seems so long ago. But I picked up the facts and figures, and I seen these alarming statistics, how dementia was attacking communities of color, particularly African American community. And at that moment, I took it on and say, hey, I wanted to do something about this, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do about it. And when I moved to Atlanta in 2016, it's when I was called into my pastor's office, and he asked me to join a ministry. And I said no. And I had all of these excuses, y'all. I was really focused on, I wanted to put all my energy in developing my program of research as an early career scholar and faculty member. And when he asked me more questions, he said, I need you to start your own ministry based on what you just told me. When I was telling him about older adults supporting family caregivers, those living with dementia. And so I would say, y'all, that's where this all started, my work, where I was able to really, really see the role, see the importance that religiosity has in supporting families that are on this journey, and be able to create programs just to enhance their knowledge, compassion, and give hope. So I want to put that little story in to share, because so many people ask me, well, where did it start? And I have to really just give credit to that last point, when my pastor really called me in his office and gave me that charge. And I share that because I want y'all to think about that. When people do call you in and they give you a task or they give you a charge, think how you can take it on and really see where you fit and how it aligns with everything that you're doing. And so this personal calling is the seed of the Alter Dementia program that you heard in the video that everyone talked about, and I'll talk a little bit more later about it. And it's also the seed for the book, From Faith to Action, because again, I did not know how to merge my worlds together. I did not know how to really move forward with addressing these disparities that I was seeing in the community, and these dementia-related disparities, I should say. Next slide. So these are these numbers, these statistics that I've seen, right? African Americans are twice more likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia in comparison to their white counterparts. And y'all, that was actually the first statistic that I read in the Alzheimer's Association Facts and Figures that comes out every spring. And that's what really alarmed me, because I was a nurse and I had no clue. I was a nurse and I had only maybe seen one African American patient with a formal diagnosis of dementia. So I just did not know that this impacted our communities. When I shared with my parents and my other family members, they said that that's false. That's not what happens to us. We don't get that. And, the more I was reading the statistics and giving it I was like, no, it does. Something is wrong here. Misinformation, lack of knowledge. And so again, that number, twice more likely, was back in 2012, 2013. It is 2026, and we are still reporting that same number. Also, there are so many unpaid caregivers that support those living with dementia in the US. And it's more than what we think, right? It's more than what's documented. And I say unpaid, but we know there's many programs out there, but we can just say informal family caregivers. There's just so many that are out there. And come to find out, when I started doing this work, I had good friends that were family caregivers and I didn't know. So again, that just confirms there's so many people on this journey. And so the numbers we may read on this screen or read in another report, y'all, that is just a fraction of the number of family caregivers that are actually out there doing the work. Also, 60% of Black African-American dementia caregivers report high emotional distress. We've seen that in some of the literature. I've heard that in some of my research interviews as well. But they don't use a lot of, how can I say, supportive services that are available in the community. So those are things that I look at as well. And then the last statistic I want to share with you all that's not on this screen, and this is the one that really gets the community moving when I go out to speak to them, and hopefully I get y'all, it'll get you all to start moving. By 2030, nearly 40% of individuals that will be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia will be Black or Latino. That right there stresses that this is a public health crisis. We have to do something. It cannot just be on the shoulders of the scientists. We cannot just be on the shoulders of the community, cannot be just on the shoulders of our healthcare providers or our families. We have to come together. And again, these are statistics we cannot ignore, but I firmly believe as we come together, these are things, these statistics that we can change. Next slide. So let's break that silence. Let's talk about the stigma, the shame, sacred trust. As I work with faith communities, I see them as the first line of connection, especially as I go out into the community. And I am in Texas right now, but just all in the southern, southeast. I mean, our churches are just major trusted institution places that really families go to, and they're looking for resources. And so it's so important that we do not ignore them. We don't overlook them. We include our faith communities. Next slide. So when we talk about stigma, and I know dementia-related stigma exists in many communities, but I really just want to hone in and focus on the African-American and the Black community. And I actually had a caregiver share, in our community, we don't talk about it. We call it getting old, acting foolish. We pray harder. We hide it, because if people find out, what will they say about our family? Right? And so there's 3 different types of stigma that I go out in the community and I speak about. And we have that self-stigma. And so that's caregivers, family members, even persons living with dementia, right? They're internalizing the shame, and which leads to them not getting help, right? It leads to them becoming social isolated. And we know the work out there when social isolation leads to depression, which puts you at risk for dementia, puts you at risk for so many other things as well. So you have that self-stigma. And I face that a lot when I'm out in the community and I'm speaking with individuals and families. Then we have community stigma. So the fear of being judged by your community, it discourages families from disclosing a diagnosis or asking for support. And so if we're looking at our faith communities, many of the parishioners, they don't want to be judged. I actually had a daughter tell me that her mom was living with her brother, who is the head deacon and at a church, and he stopped bringing his mom to church because he didn't want the church to start talking about him or his family. And so again, there's so many people that judge each other. And I just want to take a moment and ask you just to reflect, right? Because sometimes it's just unconsciously it happens. But we want to be mindful because that can also delay families getting help. So again, that's the community stigma. And then structural stigma, the lack of cultural competent services reinforces the ideal to African-American Black caregivers that help is not for them. So they may see the help, they may see the resources, but if it does not reflect anything that may be going on for them in their home, it does not reflect their identity, then they may think that, hey, this is not for me. And I actually have seen this when I'm in the community and I started in this space. I started hearing from families, there's nothing out there for us, nothing. And so then I went back to agencies and I learned about the abundance of resources in certain geographical regions. And I was shocked. There's an abundance, but then in return, you have communities that have been historically overlooked and underserved, saying that there's nothing for them. But the reason may be is because they don't see themselves in those programs. So again, it's for us to start thinking about it. I know we have a lot of people logging in, community members, families. We also have professionals, program managers. So I want us all to just kind of think about what are those things. We know stigma exists. What can we do to really change this and try to reduce the stigma? I would love to eradicate it, right? But, just try to reduce the stigma so our families can get help. Next slide. So 3 ways faith communities can break stigma. So if we have any faith leaders or anybody that are actively involved in their church, this is something that when I go out and I have these courageous conversations with our faith leaders and I ask them, what can we do? Our ministry leaders, and one of the things is compassion and being present, right? And showing up is so, so important. Showing up wherever these families are is important. So it's not just in the church, if they're in the hospital, if they're at home, we want to show up. One of the things is I had a family really, she experienced church hurt because the pastor, other ministry leaders stopped checking on her. They didn't do home visits. Once she disclosed the diagnosis of her partner, her husband, that was it. Right. And so we still need to show up and be present. And the work that I'm trying to do is help and equip our faith leaders and our churches on how to show up and how to be present in a meaningful way. The other way we can break this stigma is education and awareness, right? And so it's not just hosting an altar brain health workshop, y'all, it's hosting any dementia-related education. It can be focused on caregiving. It can be reducing risk factors, just anything to bring light to the community. And so they can be more informed. And when we have a more informed community, more informed congregation, then things can be transformed. And we can have also a health literate community. And I always go out and I say this for those that know Hosea 4:6. The beginning of that verse is, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And so I always go out and I share that so they can understand that knowledge is so key, and actually knowledge is power. And we have a lot of things that we do with our faith community so they can do awareness events. So if they don't feel comfortable speaking from the pulpit, there's other things that they can do to raise awareness. And then trusted relationships is so, so important. And so making sure that our pastors are on board, just nurses, deacons, the mothers of the church, making sure that they are informed, because they hold a level of authority within that community. And y'all, we cannot overlook that, right? And when they can speak to this, and when they can speak to it with grace and give hope, that can change the trajectory for these families while they're on this journey. So that is so, so important. Next slide. So what are those ways that we can continue to build a culture of care? What are some practical strategies? I know I've been speaking and I've been giving tips or just some things I've seen in the community, but in the next couple of slides, we're going to go over some practical strategies that we actually can do, strategies that are evidence-informed, culturally grounded, and community-driven. And I do want to say, yes, a lot of my work primarily has focused on the Black and African American community, but I truly believe, and I have partnered with other colleagues to apply this framework and some of the work that I've done to other communities as well. Next slide. So in the work that I'm doing, what's so different about it? And so hopefully for the last 10 or 15 minutes, you can start thinking about, oh, this is why it's different. This is why the work that Dr. Epps is doing, it may be implemented a little bit in a larger scale. But I'm just going to highlight a few things here. And I'll start on the right side. I use a for us, by us approach. So many of the programs that I develop are co-designed with Black faith communities, co-designed with Black families as well. So bringing them to the table at the beginning so I can fully understand, yes, I do identify as Black and African American, but I need to hear from them more about their journey, where the gap is for me to properly respond, right? And so I'm listening to respond and be able to show up and provide a program that they can actually use, and it would be acceptable for the community. So that's one thing that I want to highlight. And the other part is faith integrated. And so I would just share with you all, when I started on this journey and saying I wanted to become a researcher, right? Whatever that meant at that time, faith was very important to me, and I really wanted to bring in faith. And for my dissertation, for my PhD studies, I did look at religiosity, but as soon as I graduated and I started talking to mentors and other colleagues, it was like, no, you cannot put that does not match with science. It doesn't align with science, and no one wants to hear about that. And so I put it down. But then in my results, it kept coming up, and so I could not ignore it. And so a lot of my research is really integrated in faith, is faith-based interventions. I try to embed spiritual care in a lot of my program elements and as I'm designing interventions, because the community and the families that I'm working with have told me how important this is. So in parentheses, you'll see some examples of programs that I've done. And Faith Hat was an intervention that I developed based on what a member in the community told me. She said, you want the church to change, but I'm not ready to go to church. Still, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for them to judge me. I don't want to take the risk just yet. Can you bring the church to me? And so Faith Hat is where we created this faith-based home activity toolbox, where we packaged this this meaningful religious engagement activities. We packaged it in a box and we mailed it to families and we coached them on how to use it, because many families, after a diagnosis, I'm going to tell you, yes, many say, yeah, we'll pray, but engaging in their faith practices religiously like they used to do, that tends to stop. And so we're able to bring this back and show them how they can incorporate that back into their daily routine. And I will tell you, I've heard just stories that just will bring tears to your eyes, how now the husband trusts the wife again because they are taking time to watch online worship services that we created that were 10 minutes or less. And they're doing other religious activities together. So that's just an example of our Faith Hat intervention. The other program that we just launched was last June. We did it, and it's with a grant from the CDR, Center of Dementia Respite Innovation. It was the Alter Respite Pastoral Care Program. And so, we're working with our faith communities, and they have the sick and shut in ministry, they have the pastoral care team, but it was just coming in for maybe a short visit to give communion or do something just really minimum. But we heard from families saying they need respite. And so what we did was we merged that together and we trained our leaders on how to provide respite. So after you give communion, you're going to stay there, allow that family caregiver to have their respite, and you're going to engage with this parishioner that may be affected or living with dementia. And what makes this so important is the activities that they're engaging in are meaningful religious activities. So it's not just turning on TV to watch Gunsmoke. It is actually meaningful religious activities. So I just kind of want to share, those are two examples that we've done. And to give a shout out for the Alter Respite Pastoral Care Program. It was a challenge, and people, if you know me, you know I'm always up for a challenge to do the impossible. But we selected 3 churches from our network to implement this program. They never did anything like this before. It was like, whoa, this is way too much for us to do. But we coached them, and over 6 months, collectively, they served 19 families, and they gave close to 2,000 hours in respite. And that was just amazing, and it's unheard of, because the way they recruited volunteers, we showed them how to recruit volunteers and how to put things in place. And now these programs are going, and they're finding additional monies to sustain it. The next program that I've done is Caregiving While Black. And this is an evidence-based psychoeducational program that has been shown to reduce caregiver burden. And this program came about because caregivers were coming up to me, telling me, and I witnessed caregivers not engaging in certain interventions that I was part of with other programs, not taking advantage of other programs that were out there. And they was just saying, it's not for me. It doesn't reflect the issues that I'm going through daily as a Black person in America. It's not reflecting that. And so this course was developed to address the realities of being Black in America and also caring for someone living with dementia. And so we assisted them and gave them education on how to navigate the healthcare system, how to navigate everyday life, and also how to take care of yourself. And so when I move to the next slide, I'll share some results. And a lot of our work has been sustained by design, by working with our community advisory board members, also partnering with public health agencies, the leadership of faith community leadership, us coming together. That's how I've been able to sustain a lot of the programming, because we all know money runs out at certain times, but that does not mean the programming and the support that we're giving to these families need to stop. And so that's what I actually preach when I go in the communities. And, I'm so grateful for the partnership with public health agencies that has been really helpful across the country to allow us to keep the work going. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see the Alter Dementia program. And so this was related to the video. This is the program that I'm probably most known for, but I always wanted to tell other people I do other things too. But this is where we're creating dementia-friendly faith spaces, and not just in the US, but internationally, as you've seen in the video. And as of now, this is the only nurse-led program that exists. I have been doing this. We signed our first church in 2020. So that makes it 6 years. Yes, I've been doing this for 6 years. And we have been able to partner with over 135 faith communities. And that does not mean individual churches. So we have two different models. We have where we can partner with individual churches, but sometimes we partner with a conference or a district or an alliance. It just depends on that denomination, where if they want to turn their whole district into dementia friendly, we have that model as well. We're in 26 states, a little over 26 states. I think it's 27 to be exact, and 19 faith denominations right now. And so we're looking to continue to grow. Our goal is to make sure that as families re-engage with their faith community or continue to engage with their faith community, they can also depend on them for resources, depend on them for support, depend on them for education. And one of the things about this program, we do not leave out the worship piece. So we do speak with our leaders on how they need to modify their worship to really continue to spiritually care for these families. We cannot overlook that. And so those are conversations that we have. And I'm just so excited to really highlight that the work that we've done. And we do a summit every year where we bring all of our faith communities together, but also other communities we don't partner with. We bring them together in Atlanta every April to really, again, invest in them, pour that knowledge in them so they can go back. And if they don't want to partner with us, they can still go back and start something. And if they are a partner with us, they can continue to keep moving forward and being a trailblazer within this movement. Something I don't have here, and then I love to just do, a shout out and just share. Over these 6 years, I have been able to, my team, we write grants, and because many of you all may say, okay, how is this truly funded? How do you get it started? And so I write several grants to whoever wants to read it. I write, I do several pitches as well. Anyone wants to listen, I will make that pitch. But I have been able to invest a little over $360,000 back into our faith community. So out of the grants that I write, it's not about me. It's not about elevating my program of research. It's actually about building the capacity of our communities, building the capacity of our churches, our faith, our places of worship, building their capacity so they can serve. That's the only way that the programs that we develop and implement can be sustained. We have to be able to build their capacity. So I am so excited for that. Next slide. So right here is just quickly what the Caregiving While Black course showed. It was caregiver reduction in caregiver burden. We have also had increase in health literacy, improvement in self-efficacy, or you can say caregiver confidence. And so this data confirmed what the community already knew. When Black caregivers are given a safe space with culturally resonant tools and community support, they can thrive. So they just don't cope, they thrive. And y'all, this is something so important for us to think about, because so many people say, well, why we may need a different program here, a different program there. And sometimes it may not be the content, it may be how it's delivered. And so it's just something to think about. We've gotten so many comments, and now I have 2 grants. One is from the Rita and Alex Hillman Foundation. The other one is from RRF that is really supporting me now, training communities to create these safe spaces for Black and African American caregivers so they can deliver this course. And the community is so excited. They are just signing up to be trained on this. And I look forward to coming back and sharing with you all how does that go, because when you have it in a research protocol is very confined, we know exactly what we're doing. But as soon as we really roll it out into the community, that's when the real world happens. So I look forward to being able to report that back. But again, it's about creating this safe learning space. And I just want us to think about that, and what does safe look like for the communities that you may be working with. Next slide. So what are some steps for us to foster a culture of care? And so for you all that may be working with certain programs, health professional, how do you get started, right? How do I get there? How can I have a program that's similar to Alter or Caregiving While Black or the Respite program? And I would just want to share with y'all, the first thing is understand the culture in the community that you are trying to serve. We cannot go in there and make the assumption because I may identify with the race and ethnicity of that community that I fully understand it. That is not true. You still have to take that time to understand, because within each group, race and ethnic group, depending on the geographic region, there's another layer of understanding that needs to take place. So that is so important that you do take that time to learn the history for that community. If you're working with churches and faith communities, learn the history of each church. What have they done in that community? How are they viewed by the community members as well is so important. And then identifying key contacts. I get this question a lot. Well, who do you call, right? Do you go straight to the pastor? Who do you call? And it just varies. So as you're learning the history of that community and really trying to understand it, you will see who is that primary person to contact. It's just going to just rise to the top, I should say. So it could be the senior pastor, but it may be the church secretary. It could be maybe the person that's over the neighborhood association that really has that voice and everyone will listen to. So even the faith leader may pay attention to what the president of the neighborhood association is saying. So it just all depends. It could be the mother of the church. We have also worked, many of our churches have came on board because the mother of the church has spoke to how important this is. It could be a deacon, a deaconess. So again, it's not one particular person, it's you just identifying who's that person that really has that voice and people are listening to. The next one, explore the opportunity and introduce programs. So when you're exploring an opportunity, you want to see if your program will be a good fit. So you don't want to force anything. And that's what I've seen a lot in the past, where people have this program and they just want to force it on this community because we see that it's going to be beneficial. But it is so important for us to make sure it's going to be a good fit and finding ways to introduce it and listen. And if it's not going to be a good fit, maybe it's part of it can be modified, or if not, but we don't want to force anything on a community. And if once you find a community, you want to be able to work with them, partner with them so you can implement the program and you can activate. And so again, I'm a community engaged researcher, so I cannot do anything without the community right there alongside me so we can implement this program. And sustainability, I probably should have had sustainability at the top, because you always should be thinking about how does this program sustain when the agency no longer can keep it going, when the funds may run out. How can we sustain this program? And that is sustained through partnerships. Partnering with different community organizations is so important. And I've done that. I've helped other people partner with community organizations because things have to keep going. We know things happen every day, right? Programs are pulled and some are introduced, but I think about the families on the end, right? I need to make sure that we keep it constant and have programs in place that they can still utilize. Next slide. So moving forward, healing hope in the road, right? Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the community that holds you through it. So again, I really, really want to stress the importance of having community right alongside you as you are developing programming. If you are a caregiver, I want you to lean on your community, because our goal, me and my colleagues, our goal is to make sure that community is aware and they know how to support our families that are on this journey. Next slide. So when we look at pillars of caregiver resilience, I just want to remind everyone, if you are a person of faith, for us to recognize that, right? Spiritual grounding gives meaning to suffering and sustains hope when caregiving feels endless. And I just want us to just think about that and reflect on that. Also, as I spoke about the community, no caregiver should go through this alone. So if it's your community at large, if it's your congregation, we need to be able to lean on them for support. A caregiver, you cannot do this alone. You need the support. Next, knowledge. We need to equip ourselves with knowledge. Learning is ongoing. It does not stop. And so, as I mentioned earlier, knowledge is power. And then self-compassion, caring for yourself, right? It's not selfish. So making sure that you put things in place as a caregiver to take care of yourself so you can continue to be strong on this journey. Next slide. So as I wrap up, on the left-hand side, these are some things that you can start doing tomorrow. People always say, well, what's the plan? I just say, just start, just do it. And so you can ask your leader, if it's a faith leader, to give a commentary or just say something from the pulpit. You can host a workshop. Identify one family that may need help and you offer support. Add dementia resources to your church library. So you can go to the Alzheimer's Association and pick up some pamphlets, right? And just drop them off at the church, put it in the vestibule. Those are things that you can start. You can start a caregiver prayer circle. Many of these things do not take money, but we can start doing this today. I said tomorrow, but we can start today, this evening. And one thing I want to just say for everyone, healing communities are not built by heroes. They are built by ordinary people who show up, speak truth, and refuse to let their neighbors suffer in silence. Y'all, that's what it's about. Let's heal our communities together. And I mentioned at the bottom, the dementia community adaptation model. A lot of my work is geared toward this framework that I developed, and it's all about us adapting the things that are in our communities to be able to support families. So as I go to the last slide and close, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And hopefully you are encouraged, inspired to start taking action, not tomorrow, but today. So the journey of dementia caregiving is not a sentence. It is a sacred assignment, one that asks us to love fiercely, lean on community, and trust that even in the hardest seasons, grace is present. So again, thank you. This is contact information to learn more about altered dementia, more about my work at drfayron.com. You can purchase the book on the website, or you can even email me at info@drfayron.com. Again, thanks. Hopefully I was on time.
Oh, that was fantastic. Dr. Epps, thank you so much. Before we dive into Q&A, I want to invite folks to drop any additional questions into the chat and invite folks to respond to the poll question on the screen for those on Zoom. For those in YouTube, you're welcome to drop your responses into the chat. The question about how confident you are in your ability to develop and implement dementia-informed programs in partnership with faith communities, as we've heard Dr. Epps talk about her experience with Alter and her many programs. And as the responses are starting to roll in, we're seeing an increase in confidence from where we started, which is great. So Dr. Epps, thank you again for such a fantastic presentation and what inspiring work. Oh my goodness. here at Rush, we have been partnering with African American churches on the west side of Chicago for a number of years. And in doing that work, my colleagues and I was part of that group at the beginning, and my colleagues have taken it on since then, creating more nutrition and exercise-based faith groups. We've been in a similar space, and we'll look forward to having conversations with you about that. In the chat, there was a comment that about how inspiring and impressive your ministry is, and a question about how you learned to write grant applications to sustain your work, and if you've considered perhaps providing training to faith-based communities on how to write their own grant applications.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, that's such a great question. And so thank you for your words, your comments. And this is truly my ministry. It took me a minute to realize that this work is my ministry. So I just didn't go in and say it's my ministry, but it took a few pastors to tell me, this is your ministry. So, but how I've learned to write grants, I would say just from my formal training, I've been able to write grants, and I'm able to tailor it according to the strategic vision, the mission of each agency. And so I have been able to get federal and private dollars for the work that I do. And also relationships are really, really key. So I will tell everyone to really reach out to program officers, reach out to those that are offering any types of grants, and just have conversations with them. And that's when you can fully understand if your program will fit. I don't mind hopping on a call, having a conversation, because it would save you time before writing something. That last question, I chuckled because we just made an agreement that I need to do that. So my team was like, we have to teach our churches how to write the grants, because I wrote a grant with a church last fall. And oh my goodness, that was a struggle. It was a struggle. And it's not just about writing the grant, it's also they were awarded the grant. So now what do you do? How do you manage this grant? This is not tithes and offering. Right. And so we realized that we probably need to put something in place, and we'll probably offer it at our summit next year, where we'll do a grant writing workshop for our churches, and we'll bring partners in to help, because again, it's more than just writing what you're going to do. It's also how you're going to evaluate it and how you're going to the grant management of it as well. So stay tuned. That's another thing that has been added to my plate.
That is fantastic to hear that you are doing that. As you and I both know, writing grants is a huge lift, and figuring out how to do that, and then also how to do the work, and how to show that it works so that you can optimally get more money.
Yes, it is. And I would tell you all, if any of you are starting to work with faith communities, this is something I learned this year. I made some assumptions. I made assumption that every church is almost ran like a business, right? Every church has their paperwork in order, and that is not the case. And especially me working, a lot of my churches are in the South, and we specifically Georgia. I have about close to 50 of those communities are in Georgia, and they had to teach me a lesson, because many of these churches where maybe the land was gifted to them or the building was gifted, they have no paperwork on it. They have nothing to show. I'm also learning about their taxes, right? When they need to report taxes, just so much behind the scenes. And then if I'm asking for paperwork, again, it does not exist, because their community or has never been really, it wasn't stressed how important you need to have certain paperwork in order. So then that makes us pause, and we have to bring more people in and do more research. So again, please don't be like me and just make that assumption. So if you are going to work with a faith community, really put that time in, build it in your timeline so you can fully understand where they are and where they're starting from.
I think that's such a huge piece. And I guess, Dr. Epps, as you're talking about some of those organizations that don't have their sort of financial elements all lined up that would demonstrate potentially to a funder that they are, equipped to manage a grant. Could you
Yes.
speak a little bit to the potential academic partnerships for organizations that might have that level of equipment, but then the bulk of the funding may actually go then to the church or to the religious organization? Can you speak a little to that?
Yeah, I think that is a good way to go as well. But they have some funders that are tired of giving money to universities. I'm gonna have to just put that out there. But that is really a good model where we can partner with the university to be able to do the grant management and then be able to cover all the contracting services and put things in place. But again, it's a learning curve because you're teaching that community agency or that faith community how to now trust this university partner, right? This university partner that may have not so good reputation in the community. So there's all kind of things we have to think through. But I have done that model, and that has been successful for me because I always go in and I recognize the history of the school that maybe I'm working at and how that may have impacted that community. And so I address that up front and not just try to work around it. We're going to address it up front. I need to hear, and then let me share with you what has been put in place so that will not happen again.
I love that addressing the trust of the university as, not necessarily trusted in lots of communities. And as Timothy Elliott points out in the chat, that community capacity building is actually bidirectional trust. So you're building trust of the university and the community, and then potentially helping funders to trust the churches to be able to manage this work. And what wonderful opportunity for that sort of cross-community capacity building.
Yes, I love that. Good point.
Wonderful. As you were talking about engaging, there was a question about how do you build your network and engage those churches? So if they're not folks that you are already connected to in some way, how would you encourage our listeners who might want to partner with churches to even get that ball rolling?
Yeah, so I think it's just connecting with folks in the community. And when we started, it was about, well, do you go to church? Do you think they'll be interested in this program? Can you set a meeting up for us? So again, working with others that may have a good relationship and may already be trusted within that faith community to set up that meeting for you is one way to go, because I will tell you, many of these communities I work with, I don't. I did not know them. I know them now, but I didn't know. So that was one way. The other way, once you partner with one church, it's going to be a word of mouth. Right. And then the other way is finding how you can get on their agenda for their district meetings. And so when these faith communities have meetings, all of their meetings are not about the Christian principles or biblical principles or whatever it may be. They are really conducting business. They're talking about what's hitting their community, what's social justice issues, like what's health. They have all of these different committees at a higher level. And if you can find a way to get on the agenda to speak for 10 minutes about that, that's important. So don't shy away if someone says, oh yeah, we have a district meeting. No, you want to show up and you want to come to that district meeting. It's just not about teaching them how to be a better preacher. It is, they cover a lot. And then the other thing I would say is consider being a vendor at their conferences. Many times we just don't even think about that, right? We want to be a vendor here and there, but if you have money in your budget, consider being a vendor at one of their national conferences or their regional conferences. It does not cost that much. We would think it does, but you probably can get a vendor table for $500 or less, depending on that denomination or conference. And then what a great place where you can meet all churches from a geographic region or nationally and be able to present your work and develop relationships, have a little clipboard with people that you meet that you can follow up with. That's an option. I'm
Those
just
are
giving out all my secrets. Hold up.
But heck, there are so many churches across the country. And related to that, Jean was wondering if you're in Rhode Island, and if not, how might Jean facilitate making that happen?
Yeah, if you can just email me, I'm not in Rhode Island, and so we would love to be more in the Northeast. We have a church in New York, we have two in Boston, but we would love to be more in the Northeast. So if you can send me an email, I can put it in the chat if it's not in there already. And then I can give you the material that you can share with the church that you're thinking about, or you can directly connect us. But I will respond with a summary of the altar program and a script that you can use to be able to share with others.
Wonderful. And to that end, I'm curious, it sounds like, based on your conversation, that you have primarily engaged with Christian churches,
Yes.
and curious about the possibility of altar in other faith communities or in other groups.
Yeah, that's a great question. We just received an award at the top of this year for us to explore bringing this model into non-Black faith communities. So we're in the process now, having those that are interested in being part of that, doing our interview. So email me if you want to be part of that. We can bring you in because we want to see if this model will need to change. I'm also working with some colleagues to bring this in other cultures as well. And so it just takes partnerships for this model to be able to spread. And so if anyone's interested in bringing this within your respective faith community or culture, I am willing to have that conversation and seeing what can I share so we can see how we can really scale the model.
Well, thank you for that. It's exciting to think about this same framework being available to so many folks. It's wonderful. And one of the things that we ran into in Alive, as we were engaging our Alive is the name of our network on the west side of Chicago, was as part of that trust that you were talking about being so critical, is that in the past, universities have come in, they wanted to do a project, then the money ends and they disappear. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to that and how you address that.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to that in my presentation about funding ends, and we cannot stop there.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. I try to ask my colleagues when you are working, and I'm very particular about who I bring into my network because I need to make sure that we have a plan in place for when the grant ends, because it's going to end. It has a end date. So we cannot act. Sometimes we act like it's not going to end, but it's going to end. And so we need to start having conversations early, how we can sustain that. And so if it's the churches, they're raising money, or the community agency, or looking how they can establish partnerships with other organizations. So I do introductions because at this point, I don't need the money. They need the money to keep the programming going. So again, it's just looking for those other agencies that we can partner with. But I use the word money, but I also want to say, y'all, sometimes it's not about money, it's about in-kind support as well. And so don't overlook that. If someone says, well, we're not well resourced with money, that doesn't mean you stop the conversation. Find out what they're well resourced with, right? And so they may be well resourced with volunteers. They may have, and I do this a lot where I have agencies I partner with, and they will donate 4 hours of their staff time to help with some of the work that I'm doing in certain regions. When that equals money. Right. And so, but I tell people that think about the in-kind support. I just had a meeting this morning and they said, we don't have money, but I can donate all of these materials. And so that's how you can sustain the programming. So again, yes, money is important, but please do not discount the in-kind support and how that can be bring value to the sustainment of programming.
Time, talent, and treasure. Absolutely. So as you're talking about these partnerships, and Grizel was wondering actually at the sort of coming back to the beginning of that partnership. So how do you handle situations in which maybe leadership is open to it, but the congregation isn't so sure, or maybe you've got a couple of congregation members, but leadership is kind of tough to pull around. How do you bring those folks together?
Yeah, so they have to be together in order for us to move this forward. But most important, leadership has to be on board. If we can get leadership on board, then we can work with the congregation. And I will work with leadership to teach them how to get the buy-in of the congregation. But usually we never have that issue because there's so many members that are sitting in these pews that are caregivers, have been caregivers. And so when they see leadership engaging in these conversations, they are actually excited and they start doing more work for the church. So that's what our leaders have seen, that many of the inactive members have become active once they start engaging. But we are willing to work with our leaders to show them how to do the buy-in. And if it's vice versa, if it's a congregant that's saying, I want to bring this to my pastor, we brainstorm with them on the best way. And if it means that I need to show up at a leadership meeting, if we have a lot of short videos that can be shared. So we brainstorm because they know the personality of their faith leader. And we just have conversations going back and forth and trying to see, okay, what's the best way to present this? And also what's the best season? So we have to think about that. You know, you don't want to present anything during pastor's anniversary. You don't want to present doing this. So you have to think about those things as well, what's going on in the church and for that church leader. There was something else that came to me related to this question. If it comes back, I'll say it.
So many things that you have learned about engagement and schedule of the church. I know we sort of faced that as well, and we were trying to schedule the intervention. And as we speak about the intervention, you know, obviously this talk was about engaging churches and creating those partnerships. But I wonder if you could speak just a little bit about the training that you mentioned for alter respite caregivers. So you talked about training folks who are going into the home. What are some of the key things that you are teaching those respite caregivers that really kind of make this such a powerful intervention?
Yeah, so it was through a partnership with Emory and my colleagues. We had on another program, we created a dementia care assistant where they would go into assisted living and be able to be with persons living with dementia. Well, we then said, well, can we make that for congregation and faith leaders? And so it's really a role in a job role that exists at Emory University, and we just tailored it. And it covers, again, what is dementia, Dementia 101? What are some things that may happen, especially behavior management? And it's all online, this training that we do, and we give scenarios for them to be able to work through. Because the whole goal is when they finish taking this course, and it takes about 6 hours, that they are confident. Because many of them say, I don't know what to do. How about if they start doing this? I don't know what to do. And so we want to make sure that we give them that basic foundation so they can be confident and be able to go in.
That sounds wonderful. I know we've also developed some training for faith communities about dementia, but not quite that intensive, I think. So love that. I think as our last question, Julia was asking, you know, as a provider who was not raised in faith and not currently practicing spiritually or part of a faith community, what would you recommend as best to learn about my older patients' faith communities without placing the effort on them or challenging their own belief system?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We get that a lot, and many people assume that everybody on my team would also have a strong faith background, and that's not the case. They don't. And so I actually work with them. And even with me, I was raised Baptist, but I work with 19 denominations. So I am also in the same boat you are if I'm going into 7-day Adventist, right? I wasn't raised that way, so I don't even know where to start. But where I started was on the internet. I went to Google, and then I learned that there were so many different types. Like there's subgroups underneath that. And so I just educated myself. And then when I had a meeting with the leadership, I shared my ignorance. Like I shared the information that I did not know, and they respected that. And they took the time to share the key things. If I am interested in implementing or helping out their members of the congregation, this is what needs to take place. So I did not go in there assuming. I just shared that, hey, this is what I got. I want to know more. Even with prayers, there's another church, Pan-African Orthodox, I think, another denomination. And I'm not familiar with that denomination. So I just asked the question, well, how do you pray?
Mm.
And they shared, and now I can do that with the families. So again, it does not have to all be on our shoulder. It does not have to be on the shoulder of the families. When you do engage with different congregations or leaders, just ask those specific questions, and they'll be more than happy to be able to share and give you tips.
I think that's absolutely wonderful and so spot on with my experience as well. I so appreciate that sharing. As we wrap up, Suzanne was wondering if it's possible to share the website with the training, the Dementia 101 that you mentioned. Is that a public training?
No, it's not a public training just yet. Yeah, so we actually have to enroll individuals, and we're monitoring it.
All right. Well, perhaps we can share we do have a 1-hour training that's public for faith leaders. We're happy to share that in the meantime until Dr. Epps' training is available.
Yes,
and then you'll get a much more comprehensive opportunity for that. Well, Dr. Epps, I don't know if you've been able to see the chat, but there are so many comments about folks who are very excited about the possibility of you coming to their church, and people who were planning on going to talk to their church leaders to hopefully bring Alter into their space. So we are so grateful for you being here today and sharing this amazing program with us. And as Dr. Epps has encouraged everyone who's here to contact her to learn more and potentially to bring Alter to your church and so many of the other amazing and wonderful resources. Dr. Epps, thank you so much for being here. All of you, thank you so much for being here. And we will look forward to continuing the conversation at some point in the future.